and him and George Carlin were the ones who had basically initiated these federal court lawsuits. um, Mostly was due to George Carlin, but I think Lenny Bruce had a big part in it. And these were these were comedian acts. Lenny Bruce goes back like quite a ways. I think it was like, oh god, maybe the 50s, 60s, and then George Carlin was a little bit later, like the 70s. But basically, what they had done was they were using terms even not that long ago. Was that 50 years ago? That I had to count that one. That allowed people to just swear, so they could have a comedy aspect where you could be more free to express, funnier situations. Obviously, we know now it's at the stage where majority of people are cussing for sorry, I kind of look like a douchebag there with my collar, but like that, where you wouldn't even be able to say that word. It was restricted back in the day, not that long ago. I guess is the main point. But he had a 5 words that you can't say, or something along those lines. I just read the article, and it was just like cunt, pussy, motherfucker, and stuff like that. And I guess back then, even in like Lenny's time, you could actually be arrested and prosecuted in court for doing something of that manner. And it kind of is like it's settled so that the courts try to pursue a radio company that was trying to broadcast that, just that small bit. It wasn't that big of a deal. It's just, we're all adults. We know what these, even kids know nowadays, cuss words. It's kind of just like what people talk about, even like between languages and cultures. It's like the first thing people ask for is, what are your cuss words? And like, it's just kind of fun way to relate humor. It's easier than like saying, in another language, I guess, what's an entire joke, a story or something. It'd be hard to translate. So it's just a world-renowned way that we kind of relate and laugh. And it basically equated to these people trying to sue a radio station. I think there was a Federal Communications Center, FCC. That might not be the exact acronym. I wish I had my computer up. I'm live streaming from my phone. And they changed the law because they had won just barely in the Supreme Court. It went all the way to Supreme Court. And that made it so that people can use those words, and it's fair for our freedom of speech and these networks to be part of that basically venue or communicative expression. And when Lenny Bruce was arrested, they tried many times to actually put him in jail, and failed miserably. No, but they effectively, I think there was a few cases where he was fined quite a bit of money, which is also quite damaging to the person's psyche and career. They're being threatened, and they'd have like cops like sitting in the comedy room, while he was performing, kind of like making him paranoid, but self-conscious, which is not what you really want when you're trying to dish out an explicit piece of artistic. That almost sounds like autistic, but I was trying to say artistic expression, where you're releasing information that people wouldn't normally say in a very, a more aggressive manner, which requires some sort of, at least if you have too much of an inner critic, you're not going to be able to say anything. That's why most people are quiet when it comes to anything controversial or kind of conditioning to talk about social commentary, people's way of life, and questioning it, or at least making a remark that would kind of mock the way that we think to further evolve it. Like the fact that we say "I'm" a lot. It's kind of it's a reaching psyche, but and then kind of circumnavigate back to where we are now. I don't know why I have so many big words coming to me, but get your compass out. We can have a similar aspect of what's going on now. Like even with social networks, people think it's a little bit different, but it seems to be the same thing because it happened not too long ago. But in social networks, they're kind of blocking people that are swearing. I've seen like their community guidelines change, which is fucking crazy to me. Because we've already fought about this. It's proved to be ridiculous and negatively impacts our culture because you don't have like real freedom of expression, and it's just delineates the potential for a full, funny, fledged life of complete enjoyment of laughter of something, and thus you're diminishing a quality of life that is basically the easiest, most accessible, doing the hand movements, way of being more free and having a more like blase kind of like a, I guess that's a more of like an urban term. So let me change it. So it'd be like more disregarding fear or having some type of an ailment of depression or seriousness or heaviness to your own manufacture. Look, my handmaid is waiting at the camera. Manufacturing of positivity and happiness, because basically what comedy does is it takes something really dark and like getting your hand chewed on and makes it funny, because it's like, well, that's ridiculous. It looks like a wiener going in a mouth or something. And you're like, that delineates the pain that you felt when you got your finger bit on or whatever. That was just a quick example, but it's pretty accurate, even though it may be small and ridiculous. Maybe I should cut my finger off and let it bleed to see if that kind of increases the amount of comedy or darkness. But basically, what's happening now with the social media thing is just that. It's you can't showcase any type of violence, which kind of makes being a freedom fighter, or someone, I guess you want to say someone that wants to stop violence, it makes it very difficult, because you can't even showcase, like, well, I guess with what I do is I do veganism, and a big part of that is because animals are getting like chopped up and tortured in these factory farms mostly, and they get like beaten and named and or maimed. They named them maimed. They don't get. I think they get a number. They're treated like almost like a shitty robot, or like a fucking like a kid you don't like. You just give them a fucking number. It's another one. But they get their arms chopped off, or their throats slit, and they get hung upside down. Their squeal. This is getting really fucking dark, isn't it? And you can't showcase any of that because of, I guess, the rules on social media. The rules. I don't know. I'm sure it's their platform, and they can make the rules, but if like say later on the I guess Supreme Court or whoever, or we as a people just decide that these are utilities in the way that it's an access to the information, the internet. It's kind of like our collective mind, if you will. It's an input of everyone's thoughts and realities, and we kind of re-express ourselves in this way. Then to censor that with basically not very good reason. I mean, obviously, if you're creating actual terrorist attacks of violence for very little, I guess you say justifiable reason, like it's just really fucking horrible stuff, then yeah, that's common sense. Obviously, that's really screwed up. But with the with showcasing, I guess even like childhood bullying, like kids getting their ass kicked or something, some kid gets fucking punched in the face by some kid you see a little more like roided out. His dad took more roids when he had him. And you want to just be like, hey, you guys should, to fully encompass and realize what this is, you should probably see something of it, and take in that full accountability of the event, like how that's fucked up, and like kind of how you could feel in that situation. Otherwise, it's just a tale. It's not really easy. Like, me telling you compared to you seeing it like in a movie, obviously it triggers a lot more emotions and relatability if you can witness it and hear it, and then kind of translate those with your sensory inputs to be a real thing. But I guess with the Joe Rogan thing that's going on now, it's even bigger. Is he was just stating inputs on like what could possibly be with the vaccine, like other alternative opinions and options from people that can help create it, and then you get flack for that. You can't. I mean, basically anything different than like the media's main narrative is seen as some type of like blasphemy against the God, which is kind of fucking crazy. It's really crazy. It seems like we've been brainwashed to believe in only the news, and that any other venue is like, or mainstream news, I guess you call it, is like a smorgasbord of bullshit that it comes from complete idiots, even though it's like highly qualified, like I think it's like a scientific creator of the mRNA vaccine that they were listing, and he's talking about the dangers of it, and then to further the whole thing that originally just wanted to talk about was he did I guess he mentioned it on a podcast. It was a social commentary. They went to a movie and talked about how they went to a black neighborhood, or I guess, and that he made the comment that black people were so prominent in the area. He's trying to make a joke that it was like they were in Africa or Planet of the Apes, the movie they were trying to see, which is obviously like could be seen like as very inappropriate. I guess, like, what would be the direct terms? Racial, racist, demeaning towards human beings or a certain culture of human beings. Mean. List goes on, but the main thing to remember is with comedy, and this goes back to even with Lenny Bruce. He made this example, was that he would say the profanities in front of an audience that was multicultural and call them out and he would say them over and over, and he'd call them all like guinea guaps, and he'd say the other word, the N word, and the G word, and goo boo, and swankies, and you'd say the one for Jews, which I guess a lot of people don't even know anymore. It sounds like you're flying a kite. And the only reason I'll say no is because if it were to trigger someone, then that would trigger their ego defenses, and it'd be harder to understand or hear what I'm trying to say. It might have already even happened, because it sounds like you're just completely defending all of his actions at this point. But I was just thinking back to that moment where he had said that, and basically it kind of showed, it just delineated. Everyone started laughing. I mean, they stopped in the beginning when he first said the N-word, because he stalled and waited for everyone to get really tense and awkward, and then he just said every profanity after, and then it made everyone roar at the same time in laughter, even the black guy in the beginning. And I think it's just a great example of what that thing is, then, why these words were created. And they were created to hurt people, unfortunately, and demean them. But it doesn't have to be that way. If anything, if you're gonna have that word exist, and it will always exist, it's never gonna go away. You can't just kill it just because some people complain about someone saying it in a comedy sketch, which is just weird because it's not a serious remark. Then it will always have a negative, like a what do you call it? A brand. You get branded, seared into your skin. That term every time someone says it, and it will always hurt you, even when no one says it, because you're choosing to see someone as the other. Even with comedy, mostly I'm talking about not really other, like, actually racist people, which I'll get into in a second. But with comedy, if you decide to say that someone can't make that remark, then you're basically saying that this thing is always going to be dark and painful, and that it's always going to hurt people, and that you have to accept my unreasonable reasoning that it will hurt more people than it may laugh and made uplift and change the aspect of I guess human relations, because a small majority of people complain, which is not how we as a society work. I think we really like a true democracy where majority of the people vote on something. And I would talk about this in another video, but there was like a clip in it was like a movie where a little girl sang some, like, stupid song about, like, she was trying to be like an Asian, and it was a very low percentage of people that wanted it removed compared to the ones that did. It was, I think at the end it was like almost like 90-10. I'm not really sure the exact number, but it was like, or maybe even less. But that just shows, I guess, basically the example. And if people can't stop seeing each other as divided through these words, then how can we expect to unite as seeing each other as like one? I guess even in the spiritual community is like one consciousness, one, like, all coming from the same thing. And instead we put up these boundaries where, even in like a fake situation, like if it was two children, one called the other on a let's think something really stupid, like culturally. One kid calls the other kid a white turd or something, and then they go and tell their parents or something, and then we think like, oh, that's not that bad. They're just kids. He's just being racist. towards white people or something, as like a joke, and it hurt the other kid's feelings, but they got over because he called him a a fucking Yankee Doodle. No, he on his country, because the other guy's from, I don't know, some other fucking country. And then we take that very seriously, and we say, well, these kids now, they can't have a job for the rest of their lives because they made a racist remark and a nationalist remark against other cultures, even though no one really gives a shit about white people or people from the United States, because they're never seen as tortured enough or marginalized, even though that's untrue. I've been called like gringo and shit and refused service from places, and I'm actually not just white, just really funny to me, because for that reason. But yeah, then that's basically what we're doing in the real world, is we're just kind of like considering people like children, where you can't make it even a joke about something even in a comedy setting where you understand it's a joke completely, even like with a podcast with comedians, it's very fucking clear they're going to make outrageous comments that are jokes. And then we have to like flip the narrative for like this smallest majority of people, like less than 10%, probably closer to 1, because a lot of people don't speak up that they actually do enjoy the content. Obviously, these comedians like George Carlin and Lenny Bruce had like, millions of people, and they still get lots of views today. And they made horrible racist remarks, and so did people like Robin Williams. He mocked a lot of cultures and did a lot of impressions of like, I think he did like black ladies and like, urban shit. And but basically then we're just saying, oh yeah, you got to take it as serious. You got to take it as this person is the same exact way as a real racist or a real, murderer. Like if they make a joke that they said they murdered someone, and you're like, well, we got to try them and cancel them because they just made a joke about, they said that they killed 70 families. It make it really ridiculous, obviously, because it's a joke. That's what it's usually amounts to. But maybe even if it's just like said that, oh, I killed 10 people, and there's like, no one finds any absolute evidence, and it never obviously like find anything with that, and like any type of alibis or anything. And it's just someone just decides, oh, I'm going to accuse this person of murder online, and then try and get the media on it so that they can dictate against the person and make them seem like this is a huge ordeal, that like if a small majority, maybe like 100 people out of like hundreds of thousands complained, which is, I think it's like 0.01% at that point. But then we're basically just convicting people of like real atrocities that haven't fucking done anything wrong. It's the same equation. Oh, actually, it might even be worse, because let's say someone does cancel someone that just made like some type of joke, then they've basically destroyed their livelihood. The thing that makes them tick, function, happy, have enough money to carry on with the things they like to do is gone. You basically destroyed that person's livelihood completely, because now they don't have any of the things that they were using as survival tools to cope with life, which is already hard enough. And then it's the same treatment, but without even the trial of like, even like You know, like there's like fire. There was a firefighter that made like some type of really racist remark, and it was like actual hatred, and they proved it that he had like some ties to like some racist. I think I don't, and they got him out, which is good. You know, you don't want to like a firefighter to choose like this person lives or dies, and they burn up because they're black. You know, it's like, oh, I was like the Klan. I'm like, what the fuck, dude? That's horrible. Like that person is excruciating pain because your fucked up ideals that don't make any fucking sense. Because it's like only like 0.1% of like all African American people are even criminals. I think it's upwards of like 3, but still, it's almost none. So that statistically doesn't that ideal doesn't make any fucking sense. It's just scientifically unproven. To be racist is stupid, and it's fucking dumb as shit to be stubborn and angry about that. Majority of people are just good people, and I think when you take that and you kind of force it down people that you have to basically publicly shame and destroy someone's potential for having, you know, freedom of like expressing themselves in a decent life because of a joke. It's fucking crazy. It's just insane. It's it's really fucking nuts. And there is like no jury or trial there too. There is no collecting of evidence. There's no proving your ridiculous point that this person is an actual racist or murderer or whatever. The joke might be, maybe it's about that they robbed a fucking church or some shit, you know? And then you just say, oh, well, they're being serious or whatever. That I'm offended because that's a horrible thing to say. Well, obviously, because majority of comedy is pushing the boundaries of what can be said and making it so that you're getting to the outer reaches of ridiculousness, so that it's a shock value, and it creates a autonomous response in your brain that makes you go, whoa, that was surprising, and then you're like fuck, that was crazy. And it's like it's a automatic trigger thing. It's a natural thing. It's like being shocked in a positive way, and it just makes it breaks your guard down and your seriousness and your ego, and makes you want to kind of celebrate the fact that you could realize something in a different light, as you will, than just making it dark. But oh, almost lost you there. Into the die. And then so yeah, that's, I mean, I guess I'd probably cut it off and then do another episode, but I think that's it. That's the most fucked up part. Obviously, yeah, you can note the fact that, you know, that these comments, like the fucking Planet of the Apes one, that's kind of, I mean, you know, that's like teetering, you know, that's really reaching, that's fucking far on the edge. There was like a congresswoman that I lost her job because of that, but she's gonna hold the state office and make our laws, and I think she was actually serious. Yeah, she like compared like some other lady to like the fucking ape girl in Planet of the Apes, which makes sense. I mean, that's dangerous. I mean, but these like funny things are not created to be dangerous. It's not like when Dave Chappelle did the fucking skit where he was you know, a black white supremacist. He didn't make that as the first episode as the biggest draw for the whole thing to create more racists, and I don't think it did that. Even though I guess he had stopped at one point because he thought that they were one racist guy might have been, or if he thought it was racist, or some white guy was enjoying it too much. But majority of all the things that are created in that aspect is to delineate women's suffrage, or no, like human suffrage, and and take something that was used against someone and creating it, like that's what basically African Americans did, with, you know, adding the GA instead of the ER at the end, which I think a lot of fucking crackerjacks don't realize is there's a difference, that most black people are calling each other GA, NIGGA, then NIGGER, because it's fucking weird to spell it, but because it was I mean, I just saw a skit on that. It was taking the word and it was reversing the impact to make it so that it was a collaborative community effort to, you know, unite, be like, what's up, my brother, you know? And it was a positive, uplifting term, mostly, that was like a statement of camaraderie and like some type of respect or understanding between the troubles or lack thereof, because you're acknowledging each other's situation. I mean, there is some racism, and there was, and that was a lot of that was longer before than it is now. I mean, it was back in time, before, you know, the great grandfathers for some African American people, and it's not really as prominent now, but it still kind of exists in a much smaller aspect, like the police, which was statistically proven. I think it was like 2 to 3 times more likely to be in a police, or was it arrested by the police, and also similar aspect for having excessive force forced upon you. There's another factoid you can look up. So, and that's not to say that the majority of cops are bad or racist, obviously. That was also not a correct fact, but we have to fucking cover all the bases, huh? To go every direction. But that just makes it so, like, they reverse the term. I mean, you're using this almost the same exact word, just a slightly different ending, and acting like, you know, that's a completely different thing when it's almost exactly the same. Even just saying the words like a longer accentuation at the end of the line would make it seem like that, you know, like and you yeah. It almost sounds the same. So, it's just the two sides. I mean, you have to realize it's between good and evil. Is basically the main aspect. You can still condemn an actual racist person, but a lot of time, like, even like I've seen between a lot of friends I've ever experienced, and I've been with many different cultures, and I'm very multicultural, found out, like with even like Mexicans and blacks and or African Americans and Asians, they all seem to just make fun of each other pretty oftenly, and once you like know each other to a certain point, it becomes like very prominent, or pretty prominent, and they seem to like people just enjoy it because it kind of like takes you out of like having to defend yourself so strongly. You kind of laugh at their thing, and you're like, yeah, you're a fucking idiot, asshole, and then you make some, you know, other remark back, or they do, and it just, that's how people kind of translate out of their differences and kind of like unite in this comedic, like, even like what they do with the roasting, you know. They do roast for comedians, and Bob Saget, I think they did one for him. He's R.I.P. But and it's people just saying that that's just like a mean aspect. It's not supposed to be that. It's just to just delineate the fact that when it does happen from a real fucking actual piece of shit racist, that you you don't need to take them as such an impact. It doesn't fuck you up for, you know, a month or whatever, how long, or make you bitter or angry towards all majority of that race of human beings, and then you start to put a veil of like judgment and like character, and then you become a racist because like that's what, well, I mean, it's even saw that with like I think people are saying like the Black Lives Movement, where they're just going around just beating up like random fucking white people because of the actions of like a few racists, and we just kind of turn on each other in smaller aspects or ratios. But and I might have to repeat myself because this video is getting long, but it it also would make sense that we could speak out, I guess, if as the people that understand this could say, you know, I like being able to translate pain and suffering and darkness into something other than that. Like even with like commentary, like I guess like this, you can think of like the worst atrocity ever, fucking, or for us in the United States. A lot of people equate that to 9/11 and stuff because it's so notable. But if you just say like you can never make a joke about that, then it's just always gonna cause fucking hurt and suffering for people. Like, and fucking even like the dude lost his dad. Who's it? Oh god, the guy from SNL. I don't remember his name, but he's got the dark ass eyes around his sockets. But yeah, he makes jokes about his dad dying in there and shit, and they laugh about it, even like in movies, and they say they enjoy those jokes, and other people like kind of like social justice worrying for other people that haven't even been a part of that tragedy, or like trying to defend the people that want, like, they kind of want the jokes to get out of that fucking space every time their brain goes there into a dark place and like fucking hurts. So that, I mean, it's just a way of transmuting something into a lighter, less just hard, just tragic, yeah, fucking sucking shithole of blast with pain and fucking suckiness. I already said that one. But yeah, if I mean, if obviously if we took more polls and said like, is this even from like maybe the certain aspects, because they keep saying that like even with the Dave Chappelle like trans thing, that a lot of the trans people in the community were like wanted that, and it's like a very small majority were saying that was fucked up, the stuff he said, even though he had a trans person on his fucking crew and she was enjoying it. She's, or I guess, I don't know if what that was at that point, if it was considering themselves a guy or a girl, but oh, here we go. I fucking did it. Ah, shit, I just can't tell that. No, but yeah, if people took a poll and there was, you know, they showed like hundreds of thousands of people like voted on it from some comedian's website, and they said that this made them feel better about something than the people that complain about it, which would be like the no, and that would even further these studies and prove the fact that we shouldn't just give in to fucking fear and kind of like a shrinking of our confidence to talk about even anything, even in a comedic setting where you kind of like have to delineate the hell seriousness and anger and the walls that are put up by triggering that part of our sense of self that has been transmuted from like years of suffering in the past from our ancestors that aren't even fucking around. But then yeah, like, because a lot of that we have is kind of taken from our culture's attachment to these ideals too from our past. Like, that could like easily say, you know, if someone was born in Asia, or I'm sorry, their parents were born in Asia, and then they were born on an island, and like maybe they crash landed there or something, and it had no aspect, and they was the only one that survived, and it's like, this is like some castaway shit. and they had no reoccurring memory of well, obviously because their parents, or maybe their parents died. This is getting fucked up. They fuck a volleyball. No, and they don't know anything about Asian history or their culture. And maybe they don't even have a fucking, like, let's just say they never like seen the reflection. There's no mirror. So, and then they come back and then they live like the rest of their life in like some other isolated place, like, I don't know, fucking the North Pole or something. Or like, where is it? Ask Alaska. And someone's like, yeah, do you know that you're Asian and that you fucking have to like hail and protect anytime anyone makes any remark on Asian culture or the accent, uh and they're just like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I just want to be like a human. I don't have any remembrance or connection to these things. And like, yeah, you like, if anyone makes fun of like a geisha or wears like an Asian haircut, that's cultural appropriation, and you have to fucking annihilate them and destroy them and ruin their lives. She's like, the person's like, I don't want to do that. That's fucking crazy. Like, that's fine if it's they're trying to like lighten the mood and make us not take us our to have this defense up that we have to carry this burden, this weight for our whole lives, and then that's better than having to do all this bullshit. And and they're like, nope, you gotta do it because you look that way. Isn't that kind of fucking like prejudice and like racist or what? Like or even like, say, fuck, this is even darker one, but let's say like, I mean, I have to think about it, but like, say if Japan during World War II, like they were nuked and it just, the place was gone. Because I guess this it's tragic, but that's a real world example. And all the history of that place was gone. But people from there, like children or something, were like evacuated last second, and the same thing happens, you know. And they're like, well, you have to fucking take on the history of your culture and cry about it and fucking hate uh I guess Americans for the rest of your life, even though you live in America now. And like, maybe they moved to America for some reason. Just, they got that. Well, I guess there was actually Asians that were uh withheld in internment camps around that time too. So there was like some even more reasons to fucking hate them. But they were like, no, you know what? Not everyone's like that. That was mostly the government and the fucking fucked up bureaucrats, and they're gonna get their shit handed to them. But no, they're like, no, you have to hate the whole fucking country, all 200 million people, I guess, probably back then, around there. Like, that's weird. Like, that sounds racist in its own, to hate the majority when it's the small majority is fucking doing the internment camps and withholding Asian prisoners and these like kind of like islands and fucking isolated barracks and like basically like kind of like prisons. Uh, and maybe they just didn't know any of that shit too. Maybe they weren't involved in that. But basically, yeah. And then if there is no history to remember or to take on, and you just live in the only place that exists, the present moment, and you decide not to try and actualize something that is long gone, and it doesn't even technically have any real prominence in your current life situation. Like, maybe you just don't have any fucking racists around you, or people trying to fucking throw you in internment camps, and you just don't give a shit, and you just want to be a fucking just a loving, caring person to all people and make them laugh and enjoy themselves, not have to fucking be like saddened by something that happened long ago that doesn't even fucking have any, of that going on. But I don't know, it's just ways, it's just kind of hard to explain, but it's just a way of looking at it uh, in a clear lens instead of just constantly throwing a fucking like it's just a terrible darkness and fucking shitty attitude towards um, trying to support each other. I mean, obviously, yeah, people say like with comedy, you're always trying to lift people up. It's the goal is to fucking make people laugh as much as you can. That's why they try and sell out studio or the, you know, big concert halls, and that's why they do that. And a lot of those things are fucking like terrible. It's that they're saying it's fucked up, and it's not. It's not because they carry those real themselves, because that's also part of it. Just try and delineate your own ego from trying to take it over and like making you too arrogant and angry and fucking just shitty towards people and being really like defensive and snappy uh, and it's not that any or all aspects of that are good. It's just we gotta fucking make sure we're at least using the common sense and reasonability towards getting the actually truly fucking fucked up evil people out, and then the rest of the truth tellers and storytellers and in comics that want to give it different aspects. Just you can we can openly criticize them. Obviously, can't silence the criticism, but the act of fucking destroying someone, his livelihood and their job and their access to public communication and information is fucking nuts. All right. You know, there's definitely more to say at part 2. And love y'all. God bless y'all. And I hope you have a sweet life, bro. And sis and LBGTQ. Everybody. I mean, fucking people from around the world. It's one world, bro. One world, united. Same fucking consciousness. We all come from the same place when we die, go back. Being connected. So what is the fucking point in all this? This fucking crazy hatred and destroying, burning down places and fucking it's nuts. It's crazy, dude. Let's chill out. Let's fucking laugh together. Let's be something fucking super fun.